I'm here with Anthony Pierre. Am I saying that right, Anthony?
Yeah, Anthony
Anthony?
Pierre, exactly.
Yeah. I want to thank you for taking the time to come on the show. Uh, the Conley Show, it's all about interviewing different people from all different walks of life. And today, I want to talk to people about what it takes to kind of turn your life around for the better. You're from Ohio, right? Was it Cincinnati?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, Ohio, born and raised in
Born and
Cincinnati,
raised.
Ohio.
One of the things, first of all, my dad lives in Indianapolis, so when I have to drive to go see him, I have to drive through Ohio, and through the highway, there's not much around. Is it like that in all of Ohio?
No, well, I mean, I think when you go into Indiana, there's a lot of rural land, so of
Yeah,
course you might not see much, but in Ohio, I mean, there's a
there's a
lot
lot.
around. Yeah, I mean, the city of Cincinnati is a very nice city, a lot of historical value, very great place to raise kids. You have a lot going on, nightlife. I mean, it's connected to Kentucky, so we're in what they call the tri-states, which is Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio. So Cincinnati kind of sit within that triangle with those other
Yeah,
two states. And then, of course, we're not far from Columbus, which is a nice city in Dayton, Ohio. So you have Cleveland's about 4 hours away. So you got some major cities that's around here, and there's plenty to do. There is tons of activities, and it's not all rural land. Now, driving through Indiana, and if you got to come through here, yeah, if you're going down 74 to get there, you're going to see a lot of rural land.
yeah.
That's just how Indiana is until you get to Indianapolis.
One of the people that inspire me, he's on the radio, Rover, from Rover's Morning Glory. Have you ever heard of it? They're based out of Cleveland.
Oh no, I haven't. Rover, I have
No?
to check. I have to
Yeah,
look him up.
yeah, it's a talk show. But they inspired me to kind of do my own thing and start podcasting. Everybody's got to start somewhere, right?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, this is what it's all about, man. It's about, stepping out of your comfort zone. If you got a message that you want to teach or you want to inspire, then it starts with you. I mean, you have to, take the first leap, and then people put their faith in you because they see you stepping out your comfort zone because you trying to provide a service and something that can benefit others because you see the void or you see the need. So
That's well
that's
said.
going to be important.
So your profile says you're an author, a minister, but also a real estate investor. Do you own your own business as well?
Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. I own several businesses. I own Mactone Investments, which is a real estate investment firm. We actually purchase houses, we flip houses. We also purchase commercial and residential properties, income-driven properties. And then we own APA Construction, which is another business, a construction company that primarily does the work on our own houses. So that's another business. And then one of the newest ventures that we have is APA. I'm sorry. We have Pierre Investment Holdings too, which actually are the properties that we hold. But here recently, we've started what we call State Masters Real Estate Academy, where we're actually teaching, inspiring investors and beginner investors, and even investors that's been investing for a while, how to actually invest in real estate, how to actually establish their business, and actually be able to take some of that market share and really get their businesses up and going and start, making profits, what I'm saying, on their real estate transactions, depending on
Yeah.
whatever houses, wholesale houses, or they want to get into residential, commercial, multifamilies and stuff like that.
Yeah. Uh, so that's a lot of stuff. I gotta ask. So I consider myself an entrepreneur too, but the one problem is I made some mistakes in the past, don't have a good credit history, so getting a business loan might be out of the question. So the little projects I work on, it's all self-funding. Like I like to flip things, like almost like you ever seen Pawn Stars or American Pickers where they purchase things and they flip them. I was
Hmm.
doing that for a while, and then I was doing something called drop shipping, where I was like, from a wholesale standpoint, selling items that I don't own, I
Hmm.
sell them for other people, and that can be very successful for certain people. But you need money to make money, and that's one of the voids that I have is I don't have any money. So it's a ironic thing that I would have
Well,
money if I just had money to spend.
well, here's the thing. One of the easiest things to get is money. the hardest thing is to actually be able to conceptualize an idea and put something together that inspire people to want to actually back you or be a part of that. But as far as getting money, anybody can get money for
Right.
anybody, as long as it's something that has an interest or somebody wants to, be a part of. So with you being an entrepreneur, you definitely could get money, but I think you have to first and foremost sit down and conceptualize your ideas in terms of what you need this money, why you need this money, and then you have to actively be able to pitch, how much money you need and why you need it, and also giving return on investments and other things like that. If you went into a bank right now and got a bank loan, I mean, they may charge you, I don't know, 10%, 15%, maybe even less than that, 8%, 7%, but they're going to want a return no matter what. So you have private individuals, private companies, private businesses, stuff like that, that actually will give you money and invest in you if you actually presented them, pitched them with idea that you have. Just like you have ventures, but you even have just individuals that are always looking to, spend their money different places. So if you really are good at what you do, and you can actually really give a return on the investment. So say someone gave you $50,000 right now, how long would you need that money? How quick can you give me my money back? And what do you plan on doing with that money?
You got to have a business plan.
Yeah, you have to have a business plan. But more importantly, though, you have to have, you have to actually be able to show them through your business how your business will be able to monetize enough to be able to pay them back with the return that they desiring.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily have to have a business making money right now, but if it's a great business ideal and somebody can simply see how you can go from A to B to C to D, then you're going to have a great chance of someone wanting to invest in that, because everybody is looking at the next big thing. Here's one thing that I want you to understand and never forget. People with money, always need somewhere to put their money. So you can't be a millionaire unless your money is actually making money. So they're always looking for somewhere to put your money. The perfect example is, why do you think Shark Tank exists? Is it giving impact and value to people? Yes. Is it changing people's lives? Yes. But those millionaires and multimillionaires and billionaires that's on that show, they need somewhere to put their money. Their money has no value unless it's making money. So what better way to spend their money to continue to make money is to invest in, people like you and other people that are startups or that are creating amazing ideas. And all of them are not going to work, and all of them are not going to pan out, but they only need one to really pan out.
Right.
So if one of those ideals actually blow up, then, they have increased their wealth exponentially, just from the one person. If more than one turns out, which we know they have a lot of success on that show, now they're actually growing their wealth at an extremely high rate and getting amazing returns on their money, which they can't get those returns with it sitting in a bank account. So just remember that. So, I mean,
so in other words, there's always a way. There's a way to do it. As long as you put the work in, have a business plan, and bring it to the right people, people will invest in you.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's well said. That's very good said. So I wanted to ask, and you don't have to get into it if you don't want to. You noted that you spent 6 years in prison. When you went in, did you know how long you were going to be there when you first went there?
Yeah, when I caught my case back in 2009, when I first got arrested, no, I didn't know. I was hoping that I wouldn't do really any time. I mean,
right.
Just the background or whatever is that I've been in real estate for, like I said, over 20 years. And I started out right when I got out of college and had a lot of great success. But in 2009, I did a favor for a family friend who probably wasn't not particularly doing, all the right things. But at the same time, I was helping them out. I just helped them get a couple of houses and things like that. And then I did a favor because I actually had some business in the area where he needed some help. So I ended up doing a favor for him, end up catching a case with illegal contraband that wasn't mine. And I get thrown into this whirlwind. So in 2009, I catch a drug case, even though I wasn't a drug dealer. And they end up coming after me thinking, oh, well, maybe I'm a launderer, maybe I'm helping them with their money, whatever it is. So
Yeah.
long story short, I end up getting convicted to 6 years in prison. And, on top of that, it was a lot of illegal things that was done. I can go through the case or whatever. But what I realized is when I was in that situation, I had to actually sit back and look at my life and says, okay, well, why am I even in this situation?
Right.
It really start with me, what I'm saying, helping someone that probably I shouldn't have put myself in a vulnerable situation where I could have been caught up in what I know that he was doing wasn't right. But that came to us looking at our childhood and looking at how we was raised and really looking at our life in general. And one of the things that I learned from myself going through that experience is that, there's a biblical principle that says bad associations spoil useful habits. And basically what that is that, you could actually spoil everything good that you're working on right now with just one bad associate. And that one associate could actually destroy everything that you built that was good and great, or they can spoil it all together. And that's an amazing principle that I actually started to really reflect and think about, because instead of me making excuses and blaming this and blaming that, I had to actually look at myself and says, okay, I should have never even put myself in that situation. I should have been, more focused on, what I'm doing and maybe bringing people more over into my world instead of me actually stepping foot back and forth into a world that I really wasn't involved in, that actually ended up getting me jammed up. And now I'm looking at, I was looking at like 6 years in prison. Well, I actually ended up doing 6 years. I was looking at like 22 years in prison.
Oh, wow.
Now, because the amount that was found in the car. So that's what kind of started with me, with my mindset, making me think about my life in general, and really thinking about my associates and realizing that, okay, you can have family and friends that you love, but if they're not really going in the same direction that you're going, you can extend a hand, but you never want to actually step over into their world or put yourself in vulnerable situations that can ultimately, cause you, pain and suffering. Because when I went to prison at that time, I had 4 kids. My youngest daughter was 2. My son, I had a son that was 8. My other son was 10, and my oldest daughter was 16. So you can imagine what that did to them, because I was always an entrepreneur. I was always the guy that was able to go to all the recitals, go to all the baseball, football games, all the field trips. I mean, I took pride in that. So now, I'm looking at going to prison and I'm jammed in this situation. So that's kind of, where I was. So I definitely don't mind talking about it. I think it's something that, everybody needs to hear and just realize, did I consider myself a bad person? Or no, I didn't consider that, because I know who I am. But when you get in that type of situation, you start to question who you are. You start to question, what I'm saying, if you're a failure, what your life looked like. And really, that's what inspired me to write the book, which is Boundless Success. And basically that book, I have a chapter in there which is called There's No Such Thing as Failure. And that was me going through the mental health process of changing my mindset and starting to question that word failure and looking at it from a different perspective, in order for me to be able to gain the energy, gain everything that I needed to deal with the 6 years, move forward and beyond that as I moved into my life once that was over, so that I didn't allow it to affect me and drag me down.
At what point did you become a published author? And during your time, were you writing when you were in jail? Were you writing currently?
Yeah, I was writing a lot when I was in jail. I wrote a book, another book that I didn't publish, which is called The Perfect Mirror, which I will be publishing that. And that was a book pretty much about my life, and then also real estate investing and teaching my strategies and things like that. So I did write a book. But I also used to write a lot of poetry. That's something that I enjoy writing. So that was some of the stuff that I did, for family and friends. I wrote a lot of poetry and did stuff like that. So that kind of what inspired me to write. And then I knew that I wanted to, eventually publish a book. So that's what made me start writing The Perfect Mirror. But I did not publish it because when I got out in 2015, I kind of was looking at the book and I kind of felt like it was kind of incomplete, because it was processes before, before I actually got in jail, and then it was my life while I was in jail. But now that I was released, it was saying, okay, well, what are you going to do with your life since you've been home? So I felt like I needed to get that other chapter of my life afterwards, so that way I can bring it all full circle when I actually do the book and complete that book and bring it out to the rest of the world. But Boundless Success was motivated by some of my mentors, because that book is a compilation of me and 29 other authors that came together and put that together. And some of them are multimillionaires, extremely successful individuals from all over the world that came together for this project in order to inspire, motivate, and uplift. And it's not necessarily about making millions of dollars or anything like that. It's about the steps that you need to take in your life in order to overcome challenges that can prevent you from being able to reach your potential or your purpose in life, because it may seem like the hill is too, long to climb, or the mountain is too high to climb, and you may think that, you can never overcome it. And that's what that book kind of came together. And that's why that idea of there's no such thing as failure came in, because I came to that conclusion that failure, really, there is no such thing as failure. Right. And why I said that is because I started to look at life in general. And I looked at the word failure, and it's a term that we use very loosely, but in reality, if you fall down, right, but then you get up, are you still a failure?
No, because you got up. You learn.
So the fail is similar like a radio. Like if you broke the radio and you threw it down and smashed it, can you use that radio anymore?
No, not that I think.
It's done with, right? Right. It has completely failed. We can't use it anymore, correct?
Correct.
Right. You just drop the radio on the floor and then you pick it back up and sit it on a stand and then you plug it right back in. Will it work again?
It will. It should.
Yeah, it should, right? And even if it didn't, you know what I'm saying? Oh, well, you maybe can get it fixed. But again, it's not a failure. You're not going to look at that radio and say, so why do we look at ourselves like, because we may fall down, we may stumble, why would we look at ourselves or look at an individual because he may have been up here and then some life tragedy or some silly mistake, he kind of fell down, you know what I'm saying, to maybe rock bottom, but does that make him a failure? No. The only way you can fail is when you stop completely. So the moment that you to your life, it's impossible for somebody to call you a failure. Sometimes success comes in small stages. So if you're feeling like you're a failure and you're in bed and you're worrying about your life and things are not going correctly and you're trying to figure out what your next step is, well, the moment that you decide to get out of bed, that's a success in itself, because you took one step forward to actually take on that day in order to figure out, what your next stages are in your life.
So I write a lot myself. And one of the things I wrote was success the fact that you're reading this right now, I wrote, is success, because my goal is to reach out to people. However, though, when you write, I know you had other authors work with you. Do you show people your writings, or do you kind of keep them to yourself? I mean,
I do. I mean, when I have something, I'll usually, if I feel like it's completed to where I need a little bit of critique, I want somebody to just look at the thought, or I'm trying to see if somebody get my point or what I'm trying to come across. Yeah, I definitely would share it, with my wife, or, I used to, share it with friends to take a look at different things, especially if it's something that I want to put out in the world or that I want to send to someone. I want to make sure that I get the response that I'm trying to get from someone else by actually putting it in them so that they can see it. Because if you keep a lot of things to yourself, a lot of times, you may not be being able to get the response that you're trying to get when you put it out. Now, if you just put stuff out there and you really don't care, then that's one thing. But if you're really trying to, touch someone or uplift someone or motivate someone or make somebody say, wow, I never thought about that. Well, you should be able to give that to someone else, and then they'll say, man, wow, I never thought about that. Then you know that you reach your goal, because that's what you was trying to achieve in that particular writing or set.
So what does it take? Now, I don't have any published books, but I've thought of it greatly. And I talked to a publishing company, and they said it's rare for authors to get book deals nowadays. Mostly you pay them a fee, they publish it for you, they market it for you. But how do you go about publishing your work?
Well, I actually partner up with Success Publishing, and this is pretty much my own book through Amazon. I actually use it as a consultant firm in order to go ahead and help pull everything together, pull all the authors together, and they pretty much kind of consult and did that process of it. And then we did it through Amazon self-published. And that's kind of how the thing came together. So pretty much it's my own account, my own publish. I actually published it through Amazon, but I did use a consultant company to help me, pull everything together, and it pulled all the authors together, and they was the catalyst behind being able to coordinate everything, so that way, when us authors put all our work together, we were able to put it together, what I'm saying, in the right way that people and everybody involved could benefit from it. So it would be no difference if you were just to do that for yourself. Sometimes it's best to use maybe a publishing company and more of a consultant company, and not the older way where, like, if I was Barack Obama or something like that, where they would give me millions of dollars to write a book, that's a whole different ballgame. Most authors, it's more of a hustle game for you. It allows you to become the authority on your topic and your area of expertise. So you don't necessarily need to go and spend, tens of thousands of dollars, just to publish a book. But you definitely want to make sure that you have some type of mentor or someone to actually help guide you, that's actually went through the process, to make sure that they can remove any black spots that you may have as you're going down that road, so that you work through it, so that you can put out a really good product.
Yeah. So how long was it after you spent 6 years? How long was it until you became a published author?
Well, I mean, while I was in prison, what really inspired the book and everything that I was writing is something happened while I was in there. When I was in prison, first of all, that's when I got baptized, became an ordained minister at that point in time. And then also, so I started, dealing with myself on the spiritual side. And then I started really reaching out and helping people in that sense. And then as that gradually grew, I had a bunkie of mine wanted to learn how to invest in real estate. He had came to me, he had said, hey, I want to learn how to invest in real estate. So, how like some people, and this is what and I just throw this out there, especially for some of your viewers that might be listening as a lesson, is that when people have certain success, and then you actually are talking to them, or someone that's successful, and you go to them and you says, hey man, I want to learn, how to do what you do. I want to learn a little bit about it. And they says, okay, great. Sounds good. Here my card. Give me a call. Right. Well, what happens most time is when you give someone your card, or you tell them, hey, yeah, give me a call, I'd love to help you, they never call.
Yeah.
So think how many times you told somebody, hey, man, I love what you do, man, I really want to learn a little bit more about it. And then they says, okay, and you take the information, and then you never actually follow through, because that shows you that most people never do follow through. So typically the people that actually get the greatest results, and the reason why I'm bringing this out is because I want you to see what happened next. To get the greatest results are those that actually act on what they're trying to do. So this gentleman was different than most of the people that would just say, hey man, I want to learn, man, I'm gonna get with you, I want to talk to you about it. They never do. He was like, no, when can we do it? Can we start now? Can we start this week? I really want to learn. What do I have to do? So the interesting thing is, I told him, I says, well, look, what I want you to do is that since you're so eager to learn, I said, since you actually work at the auto school and you got access to computers, I'll sit down with you for 1 hour a week, and I'll break down my system and teach you my system. I was like, but you need to take notes, and then you need to type those notes, so that way if it's another inmate, I don't have to go through all this again. And he was like, absolutely, I'll type everything up, I'll go in there and do all that for you. So I said, great. So we started, and then for 8 months I sat down and taught him my real estate systems and strategies. And then after that, it turned into, the next group was like 4. And then before you know, I'm sitting on the yard, and it's like 8 people.
So
you
were teaching other inmates.
It was teaching other inmates how to invest in real estate. So it started growing from the 1, my bunkie, to 4. Then it started being like a group of 8. And before you know it, it started growing to this big thing. So eventually I went to the principal. A friend of mine told me to go talk with the principal to see if you can get a classroom setting space, because there's so many people are interested. So I talked to her, and she didn't have the space in the high school. There's space in the college. So let me introduce you to Urbana University, the director of Urbana University. So, and they come into the prison for people can get their associate's degrees and stuff like that. So I met with them and they loved my program. We made it into a certification program. And it was a 16-week program. And I ran it through Urbana University and I started teaching it two separate classes each semester, from the first semester and the second semester. And the interesting thing about it is that it usually for the college classes on average in the prison, it would be anywhere between 10 to 12 students.
Yeah.
With my classes, there were 35 students. I had to have them put an extra 15 chairs because it would only have like 20 chairs in there. So
Wow.
I ended up having additional chairs. So I was teaching 35 students in each session. So that was 75 students I was teaching each semester. The real estate investment program, which was a 16-week program, which would start, in the beginning of the year, like now, and it'll go all the way up until like January or something like that. So it was 16 weeks. And the point that I wanted to really make from this is that it took that one person that was extremely interested. And now that program is one of the most successful real estate investment programs in the prison system now to this day, all because of that one person took action and said, man, I really want to learn. And then they grew into this amazing thing. And I just was recently reached out to by DRC to actually go back into the prisons because of that program to go in and actually bring some additional value to what they're trying to do for people that are actually getting out of prison. So it's just amazing how things work when somebody put action behind what you want.
Yeah, but it also takes a lot of effort on your part because not everybody is willing to take the time to teach people. I studied education in college, and one of the things I noticed among my colleagues, my peers, is that they were impatient. They were impatient with kids who wanted to learn, and it's just something that takes a lot out of you. So, how do you deal with who taught you? So you could teach these people, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean, I came up, I wasn't, when I was in high school, I wasn't no great student or anything like that. I was the guy that always getting in trouble. So I wasn't really that great of a student. Not that I could have been. I just wasn't really interested in school like that. But it wasn't until a teacher, what really inspired me to really get serious about school is that, and ironically, the same gentleman that I ended up getting in trouble with, that ended up costing me 6 years. But when we were young, this has really made me kind of focus, is that we were both got into some trouble, and the teacher totally told him and says, look, like, and I can hear her in the other room. I was sitting in the other room and I can hear her talking to him and saying, you got a future. He doesn't have a future. He's going to keep getting in trouble. But you got a future, and I can hear her saying that. And I'm like, what? I ain't got no future. What is she talking about? You know what I mean? Like, are you crazy? So it made me really think then, like as a kid, like, okay, so she's actually counting me out. Like, okay, I'm silly. I do stupid stuff. I have fun in school, and maybe I ain't the most attentive, but that don't mean I ain't got a future. So at that point in time, I made it a point just to prove her wrong. So I started getting from that point on, I started getting straight A's, and I did that just for a point. So that was like my first actually making an effort in school. And then when I got to college, I got into special education, and I started teaching at that level. And even though I decided that I didn't want to go into the high school setting and teach. One thing that I did enjoy was teaching, and I was teaching, kids from the age groups from, second, third grade, all the way up to like sixth grade. So I seen that difference in disparity, and I love, just seeing when the light bulb goes off in somebody's head.
Right.
That was something that excited me when you actually could hook in. And then I always remember that teacher. So I knew it was other kids like me that people are giving up on or just making assumptions about. So I made a vow that when I taught someone, I wanted to make sure that I added as much value into their lives so that they can actually reach the potential and the goals that they wanted. So I don't teach from the standpoint of just giving you information. I always love action movies, so I'm an action player. I put action into it. So if you were to come to me for my help, My point is to get you from point A to point Z. If you say you want to do real estate and you want to make, have a successful business, then I'm going to show you how to actually get from point A, and you're going to have a successful business, and you're going to see it with deposits and things that you're actually making with your business instead of just a bunch of information. So that was difficult in the sense that when I was teaching these courses, I had students from the age of 18 to 70 in these classes. So that's a range of, of age group, right? So I end up having to come up with creative ways to engage and then allow each person to be able to get to the point where they can shine in their own comfort space. So I had to actually started breaking the groups up into leaders and people that I saw that was getting it, and then I'm breaking it up and then helping me be able to better reach someone if they wasn't getting in the collective group, so that group can reach their goal, and then this group can reach their goal. And I started breaking all this up, and then what it did is it just created an amazing educational environment, because everybody, was pushing themselves to get the things that I was teaching them, and then they all was applying it, and they was applying it and being able to gain success in a collective group. So that's how I was able to accomplish the success with there. And that's why I had hundreds and hundreds of students come out of prison that are now doing my system and doing extremely well in the area of real estate investment because of that pivotal moment and making sure that there was no man left behind, and that I removed the black spots that they were having in their head, because everybody does it. When you learn something new, like right now, you're doing these podcasts, you still got a lot of black spots. You're certain that you haven't been able to connect. Like, well, how do they do this to this, and how do I monetize this, or how do I get it and continue to build my following? So those are things. So the moment that you actually continue to get help and mentorship, and this is going to remove a lot of those, and then you're going to have this amazing aha moment, and then you're just going to take off, because at that point in time, you know what you need to do.
Yeah. I was talking to my father the other day, and we were just talking about, what I could have said differently, how I could have elaborated a little more. But also, I said episode 1 is going to look a lot different than episode 100. Episode 1000 is going to look a lot different than episode 100, because along the way, there's a process that must be followed until you get better at something. And kind of like you said with the black spots. One of the people that really inspired me is Joe Rogan, along with Rover, and he was saying, everybody has to go through it. He remembers when he only had 200 listeners. Now, I looked yesterday, he produced an episode, and within 20 hours, he already had 1 million views. And it's just hard to imagine when Joe Rogan not being as big as he was or is. So I really like what you said there. It was good insight, and I appreciate that.
You're very welcome, man. I mean, our lives, man, and then the biggest advice that I will give to any listener out there is the one big lesson that I learned, which is the bad associations. You are, the saying goes is that show me your friends and I'll show you your future. You'll hear that a lot, and a lot of people say it's a true statement. You may have people that you're hanging with that you like, you love them, they're funny. But if they're not going in it, and that doesn't mean that you won't always love them and they won't always have that mutual respect. But if they're not going in the same direction that you're going, if they're not supportive to, where you're trying to go, and they're trying to pull you into a different direction, then that is an indication right then and there that you need to, separate yourself from that situation so that you can actually move forward to reach your potential. A lot of people lose a lot of years by actually, just bad association and getting themselves into a lot of things that they could have avoided. I mean, I lost 6 years of my life because of bad association. I wasn't necessarily a bad person, but I had some bad associations, made some silly decisions, kind of looked at life from a different perspective at that time, grew up in the hood around it. So the ideal of people just selling drugs and stuff like that, I grew up around that. I knew that. I mean, so I never oh, let me stay away from that. Like, well, I'll run this other way. I mean, I know this guy. I known him since he was a kid. That's my guy. I'm not looking at him like, oh man, hold on, let me stay away from him. Maybe I might get, maybe police is looking at him. They might come after me as well. You know, I didn't have the necessary paranoia that might be necessary to make you be like, oh, you stay over there, I'm gonna stay over here. You can come over here, but I'm not coming over there. You know, so I mean,
Right.
you can come in my, I'll take you by and show you what I do. And if you want to go this way, great. But I'll never assist in any type of way or support in any type of way something that may be illegal, that may put me in a situation that can affect me and my family. And I think that's something that, you know, this book and everything that I wrote really is dealing with a lot of those factors to help you to be able to see that it doesn't matter if it happened to you or if you're in a situation right now. It's about, okay, what are you going to do now? And at
Right.
some point, what you can do is change the associates. The next thing, you got to take responsibility. Can't be blaming anybody for where you are in your life or your situation. So you have to take, you know, responsibility. And then once you do that, it's like this light just goes off and it starts to gravitate you to this world of just, you know what I'm saying, success and prosperity, because you start to really realize that really that was the key. You know what I'm saying? Being authentic, you know, changing my environment, being true to myself. And then the last one would be is that you have to give. You have to be willing to give. You have to serve. If you ever want to be successful in this world, then you have to serve. That means you have to help other people. And that's one of the most valuable things that you can learn at a young age, is to learn how to serve. And what I mean by that is that, you know, serving and hindering someone is two different things. Serving with being able to help people reach what they're trying to accomplish.
Right.
That would be more so serving. So what I mean by that is that, you know, if I've made millions of dollars, you know what I'm saying, what good is this millions of dollars? How many other people have I helped make millions of dollars?
Yeah.
Really no good if I don't take someone and says, okay, let me show you and take you how to make $1 million. Or if you want to be successful in, if you got over drug addiction and you've been sober for 20 years, how did you do that? Well,
Yeah.
it's great, but it's not really, it's great for you. But if you really want to change and impact somebody's life, how about you help 20, 30, 40 others actually get from that point and actually also be served with for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Now you're serving, and then now it's going to bring a lot of joy and happiness in your life, because you're going to see that these people really value you because you took the necessary time to help them change their lives, and you actually saw value in them when nobody else did.
So that's got to be a good feeling, though, knowing how many people you've helped. Do you ever follow up with your students to kind of check in on them, see how they're doing, or maybe they reach out to you?
Yeah. You know what? One story. Probably, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, I had an inmate, you know, who one of my students that was in there that's still teaching the program in there in prison. He had reached out to me because a lot of times what happens is that they need certain things in order to keep, or the students will have questions, and I make myself available to these groups of inmates that I knew that was students of mine that haven't been able to get out yet. And this particular individual had reached out to me and, you know, and wanted to talk to me or whatever. And when we were talking, he was saying, you know, he says, man, look, he says, Anthony, he says, man, you don't even know how many people lives, because I've been out of prison now for over 6 years, going on 7 years now. So he says, man, you don't understand how many people lives that you have changed with this program. And he is like, so on behalf of everybody, he's like, he's taught my program to tons of people. So I have all these people that reach out to me. I don't know what it is. They said, yeah, I took your class in prison and I wasn't even there anymore. Or, you know, I used to study with so-and-so and I learned your system or whatever. I just bought my first house, or I just bought my first 2 properties. So that in itself was one thing that I was like, wow. So I was kind of blown away, because you don't think about it, because I didn't do type of accolades or anybody to look at me and say I'm special or anything like that. But it did feel good, because it was like, wow, you know, I never even thought about that. But it's actually ongoingly people are still learning, and that system is still being taught, even within the pandemic, because they shut down the university, but the inmates that was in that class still got the course. So they're doing group studies with 4 or 5 people in their cells and still teaching them, these strategies and things that I taught them, which was a system, what I call is 4 phases to becoming a successful real estate investor. And the first phase is what I teach them is banking and finance. And like I was talking to you earlier about the money, I help them understand the money and how the money works. So I teach them the whole entire money system. And then the second part, I teach them real estate investment strategies. So I teach them all the strategies that work, that bring results, so that they can use them when they get out. And then the third phase is I taught them about credit, business credit, and how that works and how it correlates with your business and how you utilize it, personal credit and business credit, in order to create the wealth that you want for your business. And then finally, I taught them how to actually organize and establish their businesses, how they created into corporations and LLCs, and how they develop it and how they utilize resources that was out there in order to be able to set their business up. So when they got out, they knew all the resources, they knew exactly what they needed so that they can just tap into these things, establish their businesses, get started right away. And I gave them a 24-month plan. So it was a plan of action. So they knew exactly what they needed to do on day one when they got out of prison. So that's what made it success. And my whole goal again was to help them be successful when they got out. I wanted some of them guys who were selling drugs and doing all these different things, I wanted them to say, there's another way outside of you doing that. You're an entrepreneur in spirit. However, your product is just the wrong product. But how about it? Use this as your product and your vehicle to success. And so I showed them a plan, and a lot of them been following it, man. And it's been amazing to see, what they're doing, just to answer your question. And then another thing that happened to me, and I'll just briefly tell you this story that helped me really realize that I had something special going on, is that when I got out of prison, the day I got out of prison, I told my cousin to take me to see my parole officer, because I just wanted to get that out the way right away. Yeah. So she took me to see my parole officer. It was a young lady. And when I was in there, she was asking me questions like, what do you plan on doing with your life? And, how you going to get out here and be able to provide for your family and stuff. And I told her I didn't really know specifically. I says, but I did have all these certifications that I got while I was in prison, which I did get my Water 1 and Water 2 license. I did become a competent mechanic, learning how to work on cars and stuff like that. Things that I wasn't really great with my hands before prison, but I learned these things while I was in there. So that was kind of cool. So I said, so I may do that. I said, but really what I would love to do is establish my real estate business and get that back going again. And she says, okay. She said, well, you know what? You're like the 10th person that has come in here that just got out of prison that are talking about, establishing and doing their real estate business and stuff like that. She says, matter of fact, she says, they all said they took this real estate investment program in prison. And she says, you know what? She's like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never seen young men more prepared for life in terms of what they were about to do with their life. And it's so funny because she asked me and I'm like, I don't really know. But now she got to talk and I said, you know what? I think that was my program. And she was like, really? Yeah. And she says, wow. She was like, I have been so impressed with these young men coming out in terms of what they got prepared for their lives and what they plan on doing with their lives. And she's like, and they got it all laid out. And she was like, and they got like a plan, like a 2-year plan. And I'm like, and that's how I know. I was like, wow. So at that moment, I told myself, okay, well, I definitely got to keep going in real estate. Like, so I can't just vanish and get a job and just vanish off and no one ever, because these guys now are going to be reaching out to me and saying, hey, you helped me. And so I've had tons of my students come back and reach back out to me. And I talk to a lot of them and I'm seeing what they're doing and tracking a lot of their successes. And it makes me proud. And I think one of the proudest moments for me was when I was talking to my son a few months ago. He had called me and he says, Dad, he says, I was just at this event. Him and his cousin that went to this event to uplift and inspire young youth. And it was done by a religious organization, and they bring a lot of youth in, and they brought in public speakers to speak to the youth just about, changing their lives, not getting in trouble, all that good stuff. And my son he's in his 20s, he's like 22 now. So he called me. He says, hey, he says, I was at this event and there was a public speaker, and and he was speaking about real estate. And he says that, and he was teaching us, and he says, and then Jashawn, which is my nephew, he says, Jashawn, he says he learned all these things in prison. And he says, Jashawn told him, he says, I bet he talking about your daddy. And he says, nah, there's no way is he talking about my dad. So the gentleman was breaking it down, real estate, talking about, how he just bought, these commercial buildings. He's bought all this real estate. And he says this guy helped teach him and pretty much saved his life, because at that moment, he really didn't have a hope. But when he found this has changed his life, and he has blown up into this amazing business. So my son said, okay, well, so my nephew said, well, ask him after the event, see if you can catch up with him and see where did he learn real estate. So he went to the gentleman and said, hey, you were talking about that you learned how to invest in real estate. Who was your teacher? And he says, his name was Anthony Pierre. That's my dad. And he pulled out his card, because my son is Anthony Pierre too. He's the second. So he pulled out his ID like that was my dad or whatever. So, they hugged, and he told him, yeah, man, your dad, changed my life, and this was a gentleman. This is one of my students. His name is Kevin. And I've kept track with Kevin. I didn't know he was about to do a keynote presentation in front of a whole bunch of people. But, I felt good as a father, because, with your own children, a lot of times, it's like pulling teeth to get them to maybe do some of the things that you're doing. My sons haven't fully engaged in the real estate investment. They got other different things that they're doing right now when they're young, which is fine. But it was nice for them to see like, oh, okay, there's other people out here. My actual dad has taught that's actually successful, and I can see what they're doing, and they're showing me. So that was one of those moments. And plus, I was happy for Kevin, because he took note of what I was teaching in class about giving back, going out there and sharing and giving back, not just taking it just for yourself, but giving it to others.
So you do 6 years, you do all this work while you're in prison, you help a lot of people. I'm very impressed by it. I gotta ask, how did it affect your relationship with your family, your kids? Did you get to see your kids during those 6 years?
You know what? I did get to see my kids, especially my youngest daughter. She came very regularly because she was young. She was only 2. So from the age of 2 all the way up until she was 18 in prison, and she didn't even know that she was coming into prison, which is so funny, because when I finally came home or whatever, and she was like, well, Dad, I'm so happy that you finally graduated from that program. I was like, what did your mom tell you about? So her mom was telling her that I was in this program, and I was in there learning and doing this and doing that. But it was just funny, because she would come all the time, like, at least twice a month. She would come and see me from the age of 2 on up. So practically for those 6 years, she was, on my lap, I'm playing games with her, reading books to her, all the way up until she was like 8 and too big to be on my lap a little bit. And, we still reading books and doing things with her. So that was great in that sense, because it allowed me to keep a relationship with them. Now, as far as my boys, they were, with their mom, and their situation was different, because they were 10 and 8. So they started getting into a lot of stuff, started getting into a lot of trouble, started having, a lot of difficulties. And then they were more angry and upset because, I've coached them Little League ever since they was like kids, from the age of 4, all the way up. Won championships with them, and we did all this stuff. I introduced them to sports and stuff. So when I left, it was like this void. And they started going to the streets to fill it, so they started getting in trouble, started being around things that they shouldn't, seeing things that they should have never seen, dealing with people that they should have never been around, picking up habits that they should have never even, picked up. So when I came home, I had to kind of pick up those pieces, and I had to kind of realize that this is a byproduct, of my actions. And one of my favorite Bible characters is King David, because I love the fact of the matter that despite every crazy, silly thing that he did, once he was humbled and realized his mistakes, and he asked for forgiveness from God for all the bad things that he had done. He continued to not only stay the course in the rest of his life, he served God faithfully, but on top of that, he didn't make excuses for, the direct results of his actions. So meaning that when his son tried to take over his kingdom, he knew that that was a byproduct of his actions. When he started dealing with, some of his closest confidants betraying him and all, this was all a byproduct of people losing faith in him because he did this horrible thing. And what can you tell me? Like, you a murderer, or you did this, you did. So he had to deal with the consequences. And I realized that when I was in prison, that when I came out, is that I was gonna have a lot of work to do with my kids, because I knew that they would be like, well, what can you tell me? Why you caught a drug case? If I wanted to sell drugs, if I want to use drugs, why do you care? What can you tell me? So I knew that I actually had to be a guiding light to my kids, and meaning more of a rock in the sense of what the right thing to do, and then how you overcome obstacles and then move forward in a positive way and be consistent. So even if they wanted to go try to headbutt a wall 1,000 times until they realize it ain't going nowhere, that they had somewhere to look for a light that says, okay, my dad been in trouble. My dad did these things. Look how he has turned his life around. Look at what he's doing now. Look how he's grounded. Maybe I need to go talk to my dad. Maybe I need to just go humble myself and just kind of get his help. And I've seen that at stages with my sons as they, have grown. And then my oldest daughter, I mean, she, was a little angry about that situation as well. But she's always been very, very close. So of course she's always been, just so supportive to me. And once she let out, she feel out, it was over after that. And then, we moved forward. So that was kind of, how it was with the family. And, and right now, man, we're very good, in a very good place, very healthy place. And, when I first came home, the first thing I did is I went and got my boys out of, they was in a little trouble, and got them out of those situations. And I came and moved them with me, and I raised them until I got them out of high school, and now they're adults now. But because when I came home, they were 14 and 16. So I ended up getting them and to that next stage in life. So been good.
That's very good. I won't keep you too much longer. I've really enjoyed this conversation. What do you tell people? What does it take resources wise to start investing into real estate? Like, you got people who are in jail, prison, they're probably at rock bottom. They don't have much to start up with. So we talk a little bit about how there's always options for funding. Is that part of your lesson? Like, the options that there is for funding and starting this?
Yes, I mean, like I said, I have a program that I teach, which is a mentoring program, which is a State Masters Real Estate Academy. And I teach an 8-week course currently to help beginner investors, learn how to invest. And I actually walk them through that process on doing that from A to Z. And it's a mentorship program. And the thing of it is that, right now, your biggest learning curve is going to be dependent on, what you do next. So like with your program right now, you got this learning curve. You have to go through it, but you can lessen the learning curve through mentorship and through coaching and through someone to actually help you, avoid a lot of the pitfalls. But as far as developing, your style and really being able to completely plug into your audience, those are things you're going to learn over time as you grow. So if somebody was investing in real estate, it's an ongoing process that they will have to learn. And they're going to have to go through that process. But the best way to overcome a lot of the pitfalls is actually to get coaching, to get mentorship, because that actually, if they're serious about really investing in real estate, that is like the driving force. They have to first be serious. They have to really want to do this. And then secondly, it's best to get mentorship or get some type of coaching. But more importantly, if I was to give any advice for anybody that's beginning, I always like to say, unless you're getting coaching and mentorship, I don't have enough time to just go in and tell you how you make, $50,000 here in the next 2 weeks without actually training you and teaching you. But for just something for anyone that's out here and just saying, I want to do it is, I call it the 24-month rule. Within the next 24 months, you want to take the next 24 months and start building the foundation so that within the next 24 months, you'll be in position to be able to do anything you want to do with real estate. To break that curve, you would need to actually take some mentoring, because there's other strategies and other things that you can do to actually get started and buy your first house. You got wholesaling, things like that you can do in real estate and make money probably here in the next, 30, 45 days. But just someone that's just saying, man, I don't got no money. I don't have anything. I don't got no money for no mentors right now. I don't have nothing. I would say first and foremost, use the 24-month rule. So the first thing that you want to do is seriously sit down and look at your credit and see what's going on with it, and just face the facts of whatever it is. And then you want to actually, participate in some type of program that's going to help you clean up your credit. Whether it's I always like, what's that program? Lexington Law is a really good resource to use in order to get your credit cleaned up. They are very inexpensive. I think they're like, less than $100 a month or something like that to clean up your credit. So that's a resource that I would start with first. If you don't have credit, is to start there. Now, if you got bad credit, is to start there, because they do an amazing job of cleaning up your credit. And then I would say get 2 credit cards and start, two, if you don't have bad credit, get you 2 secured credit cards. And I would take those 2 credit cards, I would get them activated. I would start with one, and I would use one for 3 months. And then after that one, put it up, take the other one, use it for 3 months. And I always pay it off every month. And there's a magnifying mood in the credit. So every 90 days, when they report to your credit, they're going to be a magnified bonus in points. So those points move anywhere between 40 and 50 points. So if you at 600 or 550 right now, within 30 to 45 days that you actually activating and starting to use credit cards in a responsible way, now you can move your credit from 550 to 600, from 600 to 650, just by using a strategy that I taught even in prison to my inmates, so that way they're able to get that magnified move on their credit and boost their credit scores. So that helps them right away, right then and there, and then they can start gradually taking care of some issues that they may have had or some of their mistakes. The only way you're gonna move forward in your life, you gotta, recognize your mistakes and take responsibility of them, and just face it. No matter how bad the credit is, just look at it, and then utilize resources that's going to help you. The next thing is that you're going to have some type of training at some point in real estate, because if you want to purchase a house, you definitely want to make sure your credit is together, and then you definitely want to make sure that you start putting some money away. So I always tell people is take anywhere between 10 to 20% of your current job that you're making, and then save it for appreciating assets. I like to call it a AAA account. And this is only money that you're going to use for something that's going to appreciate and that's going to make you money. And real estate is the business of appreciating assets. So you only use that money for this. You only use your credit for appreciating assets. In the beginning, you use it just to build. You don't go and buy a bunch of clothes or anything like that. You use it for things that you're going to pay off that same month. You might use it for gas. You might use it for whatever. You're using it strategically. And when you build your credit up, when you're ready to use your credit, you only want to use it strategically for appreciating assets. You don't want to use it for anything. You want to know that if I use this $10,000 credit card, that in 60 to 90 days, that not only would I be able to put this money back, but also I'll be bringing in a profit that's going to be more than what I spent out. So if anything with your credit, if it's not that, then you don't want to do it. Okay. So you start there with the savings, 10 to 20% up, just put it away, set up a separate account. And in that way, you just take that money and it doesn't exist until it gets to a point where opportunity, you got your credit meets the opportunity, and then now it's time to move. And then at that point in time, if I was to tell anybody who really wanted to jump right into real estate, I would say the first project that you would purchase would be like maybe a multi-unit, buy you like a 2 to 4 family, something that's going to bring in income. So make your first investment a 4-unit. Like, you're young, you probably, with your parents probably still at home potentially. So when you make your first move, why not make it where it's actually something that's an appreciating asset, and it also brings in income? So could you imagine that if you live in rent free right now, and every month, you're getting a check for $1,200 because of your other 3 tenants that live under you because you decided to purchase your first property, which is a 4-unit building. Okay,
Yeah.
so that would be my advice to anyone young that's going, is to start off, with the credit. The next thing is start saving 10 to 20%. And you only going to use that money. This is not emergency money. This is money that does not exist. This is going to end up car breaking down and you his best friend and he needs some money and now you got a few $1,000s saved over here. No, it's not for that. That money for you to be able to launch your career and do the things that you want to do. That is for your business and for you to actually be able to take that one step, that first step of becoming, a real estate investor. And that's the 24-month rule, because I know within 6 months, your credit should start being saving money for the next 6 months to 24 months. I know that, if you're only saving a couple of $100 a month, I know that's $1,200 a year. So, in 2 years, you got $2,400 saved. That could be money for a down payment. And then what I would say too is, for your listeners, the best program to use right now for your first home, I would say, would be an FHA program. It's an FHA 203K. Go get that. Don't buy a single family. Buy your multifamily. You can get it at an extremely low rate. They actually take people that you don't have to have the best credit to get it. And if you do that and also stay on your job for 24 months, and you can actually have pay stubs, clean your credit up, save up a little bit of money, you can purchase your house easily within the next 24 months. And then you'll be on your way, to becoming an amazing, successful real estate investor. And that's just something for just organically that you can just start with a 24-month plan. And then once that plan happens, now you got your first house. Now you can go and move on to your next house and you can start growing your portfolio from there.
It sounds like your program, your strategy, the 24-month, that could really work for any business. You don't necessarily have to be a real estate investor. Let's say you want to, rent a shop where you could set up shop. You might have to put a down payment of a few $1,000s. So it might take a few years, but you have a goal, you're heading towards that goal, and you just happen to do that with real estate investing.
Absolutely, man. That motto, because 2 years come like this. A lot of times it got to happen. So what happens is that we tend to start, like right now, I start a new program and I just for me, and like with this mentoring program and stuff like that. So now I've added that to some of the things that I got going on. So now I'm like, I got to do this. So I've had to, over the last couple of months, eliminate things or push responsibilities off on things so that I can give it the necessary time that it needs it, so I can cultivate it and develop, that particular program. So right now, when you don't have anything, you don't really have anything to lose. So all you need to do is just slow down, come up with a nice little plan for 24 months, and don't even stress yourself, because 2 years would be here like that. Trust me. When I took my first mentoring program, I think it was in 1998 or 99, and I was able to purchase my first property, within 2000. So, less than a year and a half. And then when I made my move, when I finally made my move, I bought 17 houses in 6 months, put over $420,000 in my pocket, and actually had a net worth of over $2.2 million. Why? Because I took my time with it. I got the information. And then I started with the most important things, which is credit and other different things that I knew that I needed to take care of. And then I just had a vision in sight. And therefore, I was able to execute. And then after that, I was able to grow the business. And I was able to actually kick the door down versus actually just be there and arrive. Like, I was there like, let's go. Let's make this happen. And let's grow this business. And that's what you can do with any business. Right. If you actually implement, taking care of your credit. And then actually, after you take care of your credit, establishing savings for that purpose. So if you want to start a business, you should be putting money up for that purpose. And it shouldn't be for anything else. This is not your savings account, your emergency account, and all that type of stuff. It should be a separate account. If you can't put 20%, then put 10%. Use the other 10% for your emergency account. Use the 10% for your appreciating asset account or your business account for the future business here soon. And those are just simple principles, man. And like I said, or if you're interested in really being mentored and really learning how to actually get in this game and really kick the door down, then they can reach out to me as well. I don't know if you'll share with them or whatever how to reach me or whatever, but I can give my information, and we can definitely talk and see if it's a good fit and if it's something that they want to do.
Yeah. One more time. His book, Anthony Pierre's book, Boundless Success. You said available on Amazon?
Available on Amazon. You can go to Amazon. You can just type in my name, Anthony Pierre, and scroll down, and it's right there. Or you can actually go to Linktree. You can go to Linktree. If you're familiar with Linktree, go to Linktree / Anthony. Oh, no, actually, it's Linktree / APIERRE 1002. And basically, Linktree is, you go to Linktree, which is linktr.ee / APIE 1002. And you can go there and it'll pull up all my social media. It'll pull up, I got a free webinar on there that you can go to that teaches you how to make $50,000 in 5 simple steps to making $50,000 on all your real estate flips. I also you can get a link to the book and get on the book. You also, if you want to join my Facebook group, which I share a lot of information there, you can get on there as well. And like I said, you can join all my social medias, Instagram, any of those sites.
Yeah. Well, I'm a strong believer that you can learn lessons from everyone. Everyone has something to teach you. Before we wrap it up, what is from all the lessons you've learned in life, what do you tell people who might be heading down the wrong path and it's not too late to go off that path and follow the right path, correct? What would you tell people who are looking to better their lives, whether it's through just doing the right thing or whether it's through real estate investing? How does one better themselves?
Well, I mean, the first thing I would tell anyone, young girl that may be going down the wrong path, is that you have to always remember is that you have a decision. It is your choice. So what you're doing right now, if it's not the right thing, you don't have to do it.
Right.
You could actually stop tomorrow and say, you know what, I'm tired of this life. And then if it's something whereas it might be chemically induced, or you may be dealing with maybe drug addiction or some other different things like that, and you need actual help, it still becomes a decision. You can actually, even if you don't have the strength yourself, you can go to a family, someone you love, and says, look, I'm ready. I need help. And then at that point in time, you can get the necessary help that you get, because there's a lot of things that are out here and a lot of services out there to help you. And yeah, you can read the Bible, and I'm an ordained minister and I love God's word, and it definitely inspires and uplifts and gives you all different types of tangible things to help you be able to be better in life. But sometimes people need more than just, spiritual encouragement or reading the Bible. You actually need real professional help. Yeah. So I suggest that in that sense, get the necessary help if it's that. But if it's just you just hanging with the wrong people, maybe selling drugs and out here just trying to make a living, that takes energy and time. Just imagine if you shift your mindset and realize that, what good is actually getting caught up in selling drugs right now. Here's one lesson that I would say for anybody that's out here doing anything that can cost you prison time. And this is one of the things I used to teach in the class, because it's a reality that I learned, is that if you're doing anything illegal right now, remember this, is that you got 5 things against you. Okay. So here's the thing. The first thing against you is that you actually have, if you get caught, you have the actual attorney. The prosecuting attorney is going to prosecute you to the fullest of the law. It's all politically driven. They do not care. They make their careers off of your prison time. Yeah. So you got the prosecuting attorney. So they ain't going to really cut you no slack unless you really about to do some prison time. The second person is against you is the police department that actually arrests you. They're not going to cut you any slack. If they didn't let you go when you got caught, they're not going to all of a sudden let you go if you're in a jam. So now you got the police department against you. Thirdly, you have against you is you have your own prosecuting attorney. Why? Because they're the officer of the state, especially with drug dealing. Because here's the fact. Most people who sell drugs subconsciously, I mean, they already know that they're guilty because they know they're doing something wrong. and that as well. So he's not going to fight for you as he would if it was a murder case where he has to go to trial. He's going to hope that you would just try to get you the less time that he can get you, which is no effort. But you spend all this money, tens of thousands of dollars, just trying to get what? Less time. So now that's actually working against you. So your actual attorney is really against you, even though, you may believe in your mind that he's actually for you. And then the fourth, the judge, because the judge in most systems don't have really any power. The prosecutor does. So a lot of times the judge is not making the final decision, especially on drug cases, because a lot of times people cop out. Here in the state of Ohio, there's a 98% cop rate, meaning that people take pleas and they just take time. And even though they might have could beat their case, even though illegal things might have happened along their case. So that's the fourth thing against you. And then finally, the fifth thing against you is yourself, because you don't know enough to even protect yourself. So if you're not a legal attorney where you can actually make all the right moves while you're doing your illegal things and then be able to fully, protect yourself in the court of law because you understand law, now you become a hindrance to yourself. And then the last thing about it is that if you're making thousands of dollars on the street, just imagine if you go to prison. I went from making $40,000 a month. The company was bringing in an average revenue of $40,000 a month to making $20 a month in prison, all because of a bad decision.
Right.
So for anybody, you have a choice. All you have to do is decide that, okay, first of all, I need to stop. I need to find something, a different vehicle. And the vehicle could be just whatever creative idea that you have that can empower and inspire and change the world. Go for it. Do it. Find the resources. Get mentorship in anything. The quickest way to overcome any learning curve is through mentorship and coaching. And that is really the wave of the future. And the reason I'm saying that is that we see that college is dying. We see that people are not really wanting to go sit in college for 4 or 5 years. And to be honest with you, if I can spend 10 grand right now for somebody to give me results in the next 6 months where I can have my business up and make it a 6-figure business within the next year, and it cost me $10,000 versus me sitting in an institution and coming out with $200,000 worth of debt and still confused about what I really want to do in my life, and then finally figure out that, you know what, I don't want to do this now. I want to start a business.
Yes.
So again, the ball is in their court. All they have to do is make a decision that they want to do the right thing and then get the support you need in order to support you. And I guarantee you, no matter who you are, you can succeed at anything that you put your mind to. And if you bring the right type of people and you bring the right type of like-minded friends around you, that's going to support you, uplift you, encourage you, and also help you in any way they can to reach your goals.
That's well said, man. I really appreciate you doing this. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Anthony Pierre on the Conley Show. Thank you all for listening. And until next time,
Thank you for having me.
Stay curious.
All right.